Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Dice Tower. I'm Camilla.
I'm Mike,
and we're going to be taking a look at Doggerland. This is going to be a Euro game of worker placement, taking actions in order to build your tribe. So you are a tribe in the land of Doggerland. Historically,
in the land of Dogger.
In the land of Dogger, which was a real place.
Yeah.
In the North Sea, is now underwater. So it's going to be a prehistoric game where you're out and you're growing your tribe, you're gathering and you're hunting and you're trying to survive and have your legacy preserved the best. Right? Did I nail it?
That's impressive. Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, you're moving pieces.
It's great. Yeah.
It actually is a pretty thematic game. So I
it is
joke.
a really thematic game.
joke.
That aside, let's check out how it plays and then we'll get a little more into that.
The game is played over 8 seasons, tracked up at the top of the board, and they alternate between warm seasons and cold seasons. And at the end of the game, whoever has the most prestige is going to be the winner of the game. You are going to be scoring that right here on the score pad, and it is basically getting points for tribe members, earning 3 points for prestigious habitats, and 1 point for basic, simple habitats. Those are going to go right here and house your people. You are going to earn points depicted on handicraft tiles. They're down here, and they are going to be something you can make, and it'll give you victory points. You're going to earn victory points for megaliths that your shaman has constructed. You're going to earn points for objectives with your cubes on them. These are the objectives up here, things you can try to achieve. You'll get points for painting the fresco, which is up here, and will be revealed as we go, give you new opportunities to paint the fresco. You are going to deduct penalty points for scarcity tiles if you were not able to feed your people, and whoever has the most points is going to be the winner. So again, that is all right here. Let's go ahead and take a look at the game flow. Each of the 8 rounds is going to be divided into 5 phases. You've got program actions, phase 1. Phase 2, reveal terrain tiles. Phase 3, you're going to resolve the actions that you programmed. In phase 4, the animals are going to migrate, any animals that are still on the board. And then in phase 5, that's the end of the round, and you have to do things like feed your tribe, move your village if you want to, that sort of thing. And then we go to the top of the next season. We prepare for that season. And so, back up to phase 1, programming actions, we're going to start with the player who has the hut. This hut represents a star player, and there's a breakdown right here of those phases I just described. We begin with programming actions. You can do various different programmings here, and they go as follows. You can construct the habitats. The habitats are at the bottom of the board right here. You can go there and construct one of these habitats, simple or complex. The ones that are simple give you more space for tribes, but they only cost or give you 1 point. The complex ones only house 1 person, but they're worth 3 prestige, so they'll be worth it at the end of the game as long as you can house everybody else. You can create a handicraft. That would be these over here. You can reproduce right on your player board right here and get more tribes people. You can hunt large game by going to these tiles, sending enough people with enough tools and strength, and hunting those animals. They'll give you food, and they'll give you furs and bones, which are all resources that you might need for various things. You can paint the fresco. Painting the fresco is at the top of the board, and you have to have an animal you've already hunted sitting over on your board so that you are aware of it. It's in your collective memory, and then you can paint that in the fresco at the top, again, for victory points. You can improve your abilities. Your abilities are right here, being able to move, your tools, and various things. You can go there and improve those if you pay the required cost, and you can use your village shaman. The shaman, there are various actions at the bottom of the board that you can send your shaman to do there over here, and they involve all sorts of things. So those are the actions you can do when you are programming. Once that's done, then we are going to reveal new tiles for the second action, and that is anywhere that you have workers next to, we are going to reveal and place new tiles. And so if there's someone here, we'll put a tile there. If there's someone here from the previous or from this programming, then we are going to reveal a tile there. And we are going to reveal a tile there like so. All of these tiles are going to have animals, have fruits, have resources that we can go there and collect. And you'll see a little circle down here. Those are there, so you can mark that tile as depleted when those things are no longer available. Phase 3 is simply resolving all those things you have programmed, but you don't have to resolve them in the order in which you programmed them. And so if something will give you a resource because you send some people out to gather something, and then you can turn around and use that resource in order to do something else, like level up, for example, then you can sequence those in whatever way would be beneficial to you. Phase 4 is where the animals are going to migrate. Any animals that are left on the board, and they'll come in when the season changes. You have these up here for the warm season, and then these two kinds down here for the cold season. If they're still on the board because they weren't hunted, they will migrate, and there's an arrow on the tile that tells you where they go. They'll move a certain number of steps, also based on the size of the animal, and so they will simply move around the board like so, where you have to go farther in order to hunt them, or possibly move your tent, and we're coming up on that. The final phase is the end of the round phase, and here you have to feed your tribe. You're going to have food. You begin with some, and you'll be gathering more, either from gathering food or from hunting. The meat will sit right here, and it counts for 2. So you can feed 2 tribespeople with 1 meat, and then the fruit will go here, and it can feed 1. The difference being, well, the meat is harder to get, and it'll decay faster as well. Because at the end here, after all the feeding is done, right now I'm feeding 6, for example, but if I had a new tribes person, I would have to feed 7. Anything I don't use, it's going to move over, and eventually if it moves off of here, then it simply decays. Any new meat that shows up comes in here, any new fruit comes in here. You'll be getting scarcity tiles for anybody you cannot feed, and that is going to be negative victory points at the end of the game. Once you've fed everybody, we are going to check the objectives across the top, and if you achieve one of those, you get to put your cube up there and score that. We're going to advance the round marker up at the top. We're going to bring out new animals based on the season and the tiles out here, and then we are going to flip a new fresco tile so that we have more places that we can paint. The final thing we can do is you can move your village. You can take your village here and move it up to 2 spaces away from where it is so that you can be closer to what you are hoping to gather. Perhaps the animals, perhaps some of the resources that have gotten scarce where you are. And again, these places do get a token and empty out when they're used to, when they're drained of that thing that they give you. The last thing then would be to pass the start player token, which is right here, and the start player would have been using to track the phases. They're going to pass that along to the next player, and we begin from the top again and the first phase. After 8 rounds, or you can play 6 if you want to do a shorter variant of the game, then the game is going to be over. You are going to use the score pad to figure out everybody's score, and you will have your winner.
All right, so let's just start off with the theme, because that is a huge, huge draw for me. Thematically, I do love prehistoric games. I like these Euro-style games as well, especially when they have that strong theme prevalent in them. And I thought it was really well represented here. How did you feel about it?
Yeah, I think that's probably, honestly, I think the biggest strength of this game is the thematic tie-in and how what you're doing makes sense thematically, right? And in a Euro with a lot of things going on, and I think this is one of those, it helps to have some of those thematic underpinnings to kind of help internalize the rules.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. This is one that as you understand the theme and you get into it, then you stop seeing mechanisms and you start feeling the theme of the game.
Yeah.
You know, to the point that I think sometimes it does get in the way because there are the 2 seasons, as you saw, and in the winter, some things cost extra fur.
Yeah.
That's another level of things to remember. That you have to remember, check the season, check what I have to have, when do I pay this? Do I pay it now when I'm doing it? Or do I pay it when I fulfill and return that worker in the next phase? So to me, that the rules get a little fiddly. The theme helps smooth that out, but it isn't going to take it away specifically.
No, I agree 100% with that. It can be very procedural, right? The game can feel very procedural. To some extent, I like that because you can kind of see the phases of things on the board, and I always appreciate when a game does that. But there are edge cases, and there are these little things to check for, and there's just a lot going on.
Right.
You know what I mean? There's a lot going on in this game, and I think if it didn't have any kind of thematic tie-in, it would be a complete slog.
Right.
I really do feel that way.
Right.
But thankfully, it does help smooth some of those rough edges.
It does, and that kind of goes into the next point. Speaking of those edge cases, I was not a fan of the rulebook. I struggled to find anything in the rulebook.
Yeah.
And it does one thing that I hate in rulebooks. Being a huge lover of all things theme.
Yeah.
But keep it separate from the rules.
Yeah,
Because when
yeah.
I'm playing, let me discover that theme and let me pull it out. Because if I'm going and I need to find that one edge case, I have to filter through this comic book. I have to filter through the thematic tie-in with the rule. It's like one sentence in the middle of a paragraph that's kind of presenting what you're doing. That makes it really fiddly, and it slows down the gameplay on what's already a pretty long game.
Yes.
You know, especially if you're playing the full 8 rounds, you're looking at a game day plus kind of game.
Yes, I agree. And the question is, does the gameplay warrant the length? I have an opinion on that. We can talk about it when we get there.
Go ahead. No,
well, let me just really quickly basically parrot, in some sense, what you said about the rule book. I did not like the structure of the rule book. In a game, again, like this, with so much going on, and being so procedural, I really want that to be clearly laid out for me, because you shouldn't have to be hunting and gathering rules as you're going through the rule book. Also, it's too long. To jump back to what you were saying.
Right.
I appreciate that they put a shorter variant in there. I don't know that I would ever not play that.
Right. It's standard for me at this point.
Because it's even the shorter version, I feel like, is a bit too long for what you're doing. It begins, to me, to feel a little bit repetitive.
Yes.
I feel like, at least around early, I've done what I wanted to do in this game.
Right.
And so that's an issue.
Even in a six round game, not an 8 round game,
Right.
I still feel that way. That's yes, I feel very, very similar to that by that 5th and 6th round, it is kind of like, oh, I'm not there. Okay, what else do I want to do?
Right,
I
yeah.
guess I'll try to get in on some cave paintings, or I guess I'll try and build some of these temples, or I forget if that's what they're called in this. But so I absolutely agree that it is just a little bit too long. It can also be a really punishing game.
Yes.
And that again plays back into the theme. But to bring
Right.
it back to the positive, I really like that. I love the depleting resources as you go out, that you have, well, two sides of this, that you have the 2 seasons, so different animals are migrating at different times of the year. And so I like that you see that coming and going, and the way they're migrating on the board, I think is really fascinating and really dynamic. I love the depleting resources, that each tile can only be harvested twice.
Yeah.
You know, and then it's like,
That's
those
gone.
bushes are done. You know what I mean?
Right.
Their life cycle's gone.
Yeah.
I really like that, but it can be, like you said, a little procedural to counterbalance the proceduralness, as I do really like the graphic design in this. I think that having the player board, it is very clear.
Yeah.
The iconography, once you get it down, you understand what's happening really easily. There's just a couple symbols you have to understand, and from there, you're ready to roll.
Yeah, this is a game of kind of extremes on both ends.
Yeah.
Certain things they did very well, other things I feel like they dropped the ball on.
Yeah.
But I do think that the iconography is quite good. I do like the UI touches that they put on the board, both the player boards and the main board. I think they did a good job with that. Honestly, my 2 favorite elements of this game are the exploration and the animal migration, because I just think that makes the most sense, right?
Okay, yeah.
And that doesn't get in its own way. It's like, okay, we're in the summer, these animals are moving. You can plan for it. You know where they're going. Same with the winter. And so those are the 2 elements that I like the most. I feel like this game has a bit of the modern Euro pitfall of adding things because they're cool, but they probably are not necessary, and they get in the way
Interesting.
of the rest of the
Okay.
game. So it's like, those cave paintings are really cool, but did the game need them?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? This is a really cool element, but are you trying to make this game cover every experience? And I think that's kind of what they wanted to do here.
Yeah.
They kind of wanted to cover every aspect of this particular historical period of time. And that's an ambitious thing. And they kind of did that, but to me, it was in expense of an easier to table, easier to play, easier to understand game. I'm not saying every game has to be streamlined to a razor's edge and you take out everything, but this feels bloated to me.
I think it does feel like one that has a couple modules already in. The cave paintings are a module. The end game tiles, I can't remember what they're called, but on the upper right of the board, those are a module that you've added in. It does feel like that. To counter that, though, I do think it brings a lot of longevity and a lot of variation of strategy. So it just is definitely going to increase, one, the gameplay, like game length, two, the fiddliness, and just the overall entry into this game and experience. So, anything else before we jump into final thoughts? Anything?
I'm good to go,
okay,
I think.
Why don't you take it away? Yeah.
Okay. Well, this, as I said, it's a game that I think does some things very well. I really do applaud them for the integration of the theme, and they really went all in on making because Euro games that are thematic oftentimes mean that they're adding some type of randomness or, you know what I mean, to follow the theme. This does not feel that way. This feels like a game with Euro mechanisms through and through that they've been able to thematically tie. And so I applaud them for that. But I do think it was at the expense of a game that's easier to play, easier to understand. It's far too long, in my opinion, and so that definitely hurts it. It feels a little bloated. All those things said, I'm giving it a 6. I think that there are some things to recommend about the game, but not one that I'm going to choose to get off the shelf and ahead of other Euros that give me a similar kind of a vibe with easier. And every time I do that, people want some particular examples. So I wish I had thought of some.
Right, yeah.
I quite honestly haven't. But yeah, it's just a game that I feel is the length and the complexity for complexity's sake almost bring it down to a 6 for me. But I applaud. I think some of the things they did were great.
Okay, and I think I'm on the other end of this. I'm actually going to give it an 8. I really enjoy it. I know we've hounded on a lot of the issues of the game here. The game length, the complexity, but I think that this is one that is worth that time spent in the game. For me, it really starts shining when you are able to get past the mechanisms and you see the theme, and it's like, yes, I want to preserve my tribe. I've put this time into them, and we've gone out and we had this great hunt last round. I want to preserve that memory. So I'm going to go up and do the cave painting. That's going to go points. Oh, wait, if I use my shaman action, we can do a whole thing and really exaggerate that. So as that theme starts coming to the surface, the mechanisms melt away, and it is just a fun... It feels like a survival, but it's like a preservation game. Not a survival game, a preservation game. And I think that really shines with repeated plays and is worth that overall effort. I absolutely adore the phases of this game. I love the programming that you're sending your tribe members out to do different things, and you're not going to pay for them, most of them, until that action resolves.
Right.
Which means I can go and I can get the hut that I want. But I don't have to have those resources yet, because I can send someone down here to get that good spot, but then go up here and get the resources to make it happen. So I just love that. The flow and the feel of this game is such an interesting and fun puzzle. And put it in a neat theme, and it just really, I think it shines for that. So fiddliness aside, but you got to know it's going to be a lot to kind of reach to that. This is not a 1 or 2 time through the game and you kind of get it. This is you're invested in reaching that point.
I would agree with that. Yeah.
Anyway, so for me it's an 8. But know those, and if that doesn't sound right for you, then maybe it's not kind of the game for you. But that is going to be Doggerland. Thanks for joining us here at the Dice Tower. I'm Camilla.
I'm Mike Delisio.
And we'll see you.
Hey folks, thanks for watching another one of our videos. If you like our videos, if you like our channel, you would love to game with us at one of our conventions. Check out Dice Tower Cruise, Dice Tower East, and Dice Tower West. Fantastic conventions where we play games with wonderful people, a humongous library, and lots of other events and stuff. Also, don't forget to check out our channel, like and subscribe. I'm Tom Bassel.